All right, for more on the story, I'm now joined by Indo-Israel, an author who is joining us on Skype from New Delhi. Good morning, Ruben. Good to have you back on WION. We are following closely Prime Minister Narendra Modi's ongoing visit to Israel. And I want to bring you in on this discussion this morning by asking for your thoughts on how the tiny community, the Jewish community in India, has kept alive and preserved and protected its culture and tradition.
Good morning. First of all, I'm a publisher, not an author. And to get to your question, it's not been difficult for the Jews in India to maintain their religion, and the only thing they've had to really maintain is their religion, because their culture, the culture they've been able to meld with their neighbors, the Hindus and the Muslims they lived among, either on the Konkan coast and in Bombay. All they've had to do is keep alive their religion, which hasn't been difficult because there's been no religious persecution. All they've had to do is follow the faith that they had before they came to India, and that was simple: maintaining the Sabbath, maintaining their diet restrictions, that is, not eating pork, not eating shellfish, not eating fish without scales. So it hasn't been difficult for the Jews in India to maintain their Judaism. They've been able to go to synagogues. Synagogues have been built, and they've worshipped freely.
Ruben, when you say it's not been difficult for the Jewish community in India to preserve and protect and perpetuate its customs and traditions, are you deliberately ignoring the fact that it's been difficult elsewhere? So to that extent, how has India contributed to preserving the Jewish identity?
By simply leaving the Jews be to do what they want. It's in other places they have not been left alone.
Exactly.
So that's the big difference in India, where ever since the Jews came to India, there's been no persecution except pockets like the Portuguese where the Jews settled in Portugal, in Goa. But the rest of the country, the Indian Jews have been left alone, and they've lived happily with their neighbors. So there's been no question of protecting their identity or their religion.
Fair point. Your point is well taken, but I wanted to impress upon the fact that how India has, allowed, or when you say it's been left alone, how India has contributed to the efforts of this community to keep alive its traditions, unlike some other parts of the world, where, as you say, they've been persecuted. So to that extent, is there anything peculiar to what India has been doing or not doing that has helped the community survive to this day in India?
I wouldn't say there's been any special contribution. The main factor is being left alone, which is a good thing. Allow another person, laissez-faire, allow the other people to do what they believe in. That is how the Jews have been treated all these years.
Indeed.
There's been no special I wouldn't say it's an active contribution. It's a passive contribution, but it's a very valuable contribution.
Indeed, and when we talk about a tiny minority such as the Jewish community in India, for the benefit of viewers who might not be familiar with Jewish customs and traditions and practices, how does this community maintain or continue its traditions insofar as marriage is concerned, or language, or even customs? What differently the community does in India that helps the community perpetuate its customs and traditions over decades?
Well, perpetuation is always a problem when you're a group of 5,000 people. I mean, who do you marry? Your second cousin, your third cousin? No, joking aside, once you find if you find somebody who's Jewish and you marry them, and you do that in a prayer hall called a synagogue, and there are plenty of them in Delhi, in fact, in Bombay, Pune, Ahmedabad, Thana, various places. You'd get married in a synagogue, where it's an interesting ceremony where the bride walks in, and as the bride is walking in, the groom is standing inside singing the praises of the bride, and God help you if he can't sing, but he sings the praises of the bride as she comes in. So the marriage ceremony is done in the prayer hall in the synagogue. Then the bride and the groom will drink a sweet wine, unfermented wine, out of a glass, and the glass will be smashed under the foot of the groom, so that nobody comes between the bride and the groom in future. That's the symbolism of that. That's as far as marriage is concerned. But having said that, this particularly Jewish way of getting married is combined with our Indian Jews, the Beni Israel at least,
right,
taking on a few of the Indian traditions, which is like the mehendi ceremony,
right,
the rubbing haldi on the body. These are things that the Jews of India have taken on from their neighbors, their Indian neighbors. The shera, the malida, which is a Muslim custom, serving malida. That's how they've melded the two, the Jewish and the local traditions.